My name is Katie Mashburn, and I chose to do my individual project on Petit Bourbon. Petit Bourbon is a catering hall on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Not only is it on Bourbon Street, but it also comes equipped with a balcony facing Bourbon Street. Yes, it gets crazy. It is known to have weddings, birthday celebrations, company meetings, family and friend get-togethers, graduation parties, all of the above. I was contacted by my friend Brian, who is in physical therapy at LSU, about hosting his program's graduation party at Petit Bourbon. People usually go through a third-party event company for booking. However, Brian figured I would give them a good deal. Yet, I cannot give the venue away. I'll take you through how we negotiated the terms of the event. When I first received the call from Brian, the free flow of information just started. First, with small talk, Brian talked about how excited he was to show all his friends the place and knew they were going to love it. I agreed with him, but needed to understand what exactly he was expecting. I asked questions to gain this information. First question was how many guests? The next, when did he want to have the event? What was his time frame? And what kind of budget was he working with? With his response, I gained an understanding of his needs and objectives. I found that he was expecting 100 people on the date of Saturday, May 23rd, for the usual time frame of 3 hours, and his class gave him $1,000 to work with. After gathering the information, I began to overwhelm Brian with too much information. As I was overwhelming Brian with so much information, I made sure to set the precedent. If Brian would have gone through an event company, he would have had to pay $3,000 for 100 people, which includes food, a full menu of options, and a cash bar. I also knew that May is a very busy time of year for Petit Bourbon, with both weddings and graduation parties. So the fact that it was April and he was trying to book an event for May, I made it known that weekends of May would be extremely scarce. I had now come to the realization that with only $1,000 and such late notice, that it was going to be extremely difficult to convince my dad to let him have the event for only $1,000 during one of the busiest times of the year. I told him, I know we're good friends, and I'd really like for you to show off the place, but it's going to be a really tough sell for my dad. I then realized that I not only had to convince my dad, but I would also have to convince my dad's partner. I truthfully had little power because the network structure consisted of both my dad and his partner, which were much higher in power than me. As I worried about presenting the idea of the event to my dad and his partner, because I didn't have the authority, truthfully, Brian didn't have the authority either. Brian was on the bottom of the organizational chart as well. He is just a student who had to pass it by the president, and then the president had needed approval of the director of the program. Before I could get back to Brian, I had to make sure of 3 things. The content of the message would include all the facts that should be covered, the structure of the message was arranged and organized in the right way, and the delivery style that I would use to present the message. To get these 3 items in order, I first had to discuss the overall event with the man with the authority, my dad. I laid out all the facts. I then came up with a solution. Brian had originally requested the event to be held on a Saturday. I came up with the idea of it being held on a Thursday. $1,000 is much less than what we would usually charge, but since it's a Thursday, there would usually be nothing booked, so $1,000 is better than nothing. With $1,000, this would not include food or bar. The reason that we would not offer the bar is because we would need a bartender. We would not have food because that's more costly. Overall, it was just we didn't have enough to cover it all. Dad agreed. As I delivered the message, I laid it out in the same way as Brian had originally stated the request. Rather than negotiating over the phone, we chose to meet in person. We met at a coffee shop, and Brian brought the program president, Joel, with him. This brought a third party into the mix. As I began to state the new terms, I reiterated that we both are working towards the same solution of booking an event at Petit Bourbon while meeting both parties' terms. I laid out their options of 100 people on Thursday for $1,000, which would not include food and bar. Both Brian and Joel were taken back by the fact that all they were getting was a venue with some tables and music and no food or drink. I explained to them that $1,000 covers setup, rental fees for tables and chairs, decorations, security guard, cleanup. They began to understand that everything is not just there and that a lot of work goes into it. And that's why it normally costs much more. Brian and Joel had discussed their options and see if Petite Bourbon was going to work out. Not long after, I received a call from Brian offering to give an additional $500 to their budget. He asked if, with the $500, we'll be able to cover food and a bartender. I told him that I can give you jambalaya and a cash bar if you agree to help with setup, bring your own decorations, help with pickup, and most importantly, help bring out the trash the day after. Brian agreed. He knew this was a great deal. I felt that we had come to an agreement, and since I was not of authority to give the okay, I used the missing person tactic. I told him, I think this can work, but I still need to ask my dad's business partner, Daryl, and he is going to be really hard to convince. Surprisingly, Daryl gave the okay. He figured Thursday was better than nothing. But Brian knows that both my dad and Daryl are doing him a huge favor, and he will owe them one in the future. Overall, I was able to negotiate so that both Brian and Petite Bourbon are benefiting from the event.